Camp Gregg, Vienna, Virginia, August 6, 1861. My dear sister, in a note enclosed in a letter to George, you stated you had heard of the Battle of Manassas and were anxious to hear from us. I was thoughtful enough to write the morning after, but in the hurry and the circumstances under which it was written, I gave you none of the particulars. I suppose I could not now tell you anything about the battle which you have not heard, yet I might give those which are true, and for this purpose I have chosen a large sheet of paper and propose to write you a small history of the whole affair. The Army of the Potomac consisted of perhaps 40, 50, or 60,000 men, the headquarters of which was Manassas. General Bonham's brigade, to which our regiment is attached, consisting of 6,000 or 7,000 men, was thrown forward on the Alexandria road to Fairfax Courthouse, about 20 miles, as a kind of picket guard to the main army. The Alexandria road being the one which the enemy must advance, the military men of the North had proposed to invade the South by 3 grand columns, one in the extreme west, another about the center, and the third, about principal one, was to march through Richmond, Raleigh, Charleston, taking in turn all the principal seaboard cities of the South. The 3 columns to meet in some city on the Gulf of Mexico and celebrate the subjection of the Southern rebels. To meet this 3rd grand column was the part assigned the Army of the Potomac, commanded by General Beauregard, assisted on the left by the Army of the Shenandoah, commanded by General Johnston, while various brigades, batteries were posted on the right from Fire Creek to the mouth of the James River, strongly circumventing Fortress Monroe. The army of the enemy, which has just been driven in such shame and disgrace from our soil, was perhaps 90,000 strong, regularly organized in and around Alexandria and the Arlington Heights, Washington City, D.C., and was perhaps better armed and equipped than any forces ever before mustered on American soil. The main body was commanded by General McDowell, while the detachment thrown on his right, our left, was commanded by General Patterson. On the evening of the 16th, General Bonham was notified of the intended movement of the enemy from General Beauregard, who ordered, if they advanced in force, that our brigade must fall back upon the main army. Everything was packed up and the baggage wagons sent to the rear the same evening. On the next morning, the 17th, the sudden rattle of musketry and the booming of cannon, which were fired into our barricades and at our retreating pickets, informed us of the close proximity of the enemy. It has since been ascertained that the enemy had taken 3 different routes in order to outflank our little force. One division advancing from Falls Church towards Fairfax Station on our right, and then towards Germantown on our left. The last in the center directly against us. Under orders, the entire brigade took post in the trenches with which we had surrounded ourselves and patiently awaited the enemy, whose long lines and glittering bayonets soon appeared on the opposite hills. The general commanding, having by this display of resistance caused the enemy's lines to deploy and thus ascertain their numbers, kind of forces, etc., finding them over 10 to 1 and maneuvering to flank us, ordered us to form in the Manassas Road. When we took up our march for Centerville, a high hill on the road leading to Manassas, distant 12 miles. The enemy followed slowly and cautiously. At Centerville, we planted a battery and deployed into line of battle, waiting the enemy until midnight. We left in silence and perfect order, the whole brigade moving as one man. During the bivouac of our regiment, watchers are deployed on the right. An episode occurred not unworthy of note. A communication was received by our colonel from General Beauregard, who, in his own imitable language, told us of the invasion of our southern state. what kind of work we had to do and in what manner it must be done, predicting the glorious events that followed in such rapid succession. We fell back upon Bull's Run, a shallow creek crossing the Manassas Road at nearly right angles, and about 3 miles from Manassas. On our side, earthworks had been thrown up for several hundred yards along the creek. Our regiment was filed to the left past all these and posted on open ground, but with the assistance of a few picks, spades, shovels, etc., notwithstanding our fasting and fatigue from the morning previous, we soon threw up in front of us something that hit us if it did not protect us against the enemy. At this place and in its vicinity were fought the battles of the 18th and the 21st. General Longstreet's brigade was posted on our right, Bonham's, ours, in the center, the two consisting of 10 or 15,000 men. The left was composed of the remainder of the army at and near Manassas, perhaps extending down to our line, I do not know. Directly in our rear was a very high hill overlooking lower hills and fields in front. Our colonel took post on this and reported to the boys in the trenches the details of the Battle of the 18th as they severally took place. The enemy, following in our track, halted about 2 or 3 miles from the creek. Well knowing we were there, prepared to give him battle, at about 12 o'clock we were warned of the commencement of hostilities by the whistling of a rifle cannon shot over our heads, followed in quick succession by several howitzer shells. The column was advancing directly against our position when the officer in command was met by a woman and directed to the left, our right, against Longstreet. Our men reserved their fire until the enemy had advanced into the creek, when they gave them a volley of musketing and themselves advanced to the charge. The enemy immediately gave way, but met their supporting columns, when the fire from both parties became general and terrible in the extreme. Many who had witnessed the bloody battles of Chapultepec, Churubusco, etc., says nothing in any of them equaled this. Of course, it was not so long, nor was it so deadly, because the enemy retired too soon for the first, while the nature of the ground prevented the latter. There was one continued roar for 3 or 4 hours, resembling a violent thunderstorm, only longer, louder, and more continued. The enemy retired, but soon returned. Our men advanced again to the charge and drove them from the field. They then brought up a battery of 3 guns. The Washington artillery of Louisiana faced them, and in a continued cannonade of some considerable time, they left the field, but came back with 5 pieces, which was forced to retire in a few moments. Thus ended the Battle of Bull's Run. The Confederates gained a complete victory, defeating the enemy in 3 distinct manners: the musket and rifle, the charge and the cannonade, remaining in possession of the field and the enemy's dead. From the evening of the 18th to the morning of the 21st, everything remained perfectly quiet, except the occasional firing of the pickets at night. The Battle of the 18th was brought on by the advance guard of the enemy under General Tyler, attempting to turn our right. The delay from the 18th to the 21st was occasioned by the enemy's main body maneuvering to our left by crossing the creek at Stone Bridge. Early Sunday morning, the attack was made on our center and left. The practiced military eye of our commanding general soon discovered where the brunt of the battle would fall and made his dispositions accordingly. Our forces had been reinforced by many regiments from the south by railroad and also by General Johnston with 5,000 men, who had been posted at Winchester. Patterson similarly joining the enemy. The attack on the center proved only a feint. The forces there posted were to act according to the fortunes of their friends who had attacked our left. From our trenches we heard the whole of the battle, but expecting an attack, or really an advance. When we were attacked, we remained in position until late in the evening. The firing lasted from early morning until night, but as you are no doubt as well posted in the complicated movements of the day as I am, and as a description of the battle would be a great undertaking, I will excuse myself from it. You are most interested to know, first the general issue, and then the part we took in the affair. I have given you the movements of our brigade up to the evening of the 21st. General Bonham had just ridden along our lines and halted near us when he received from General Beauregard a dispatch stating that our forces had captured 47 pieces of cannon and that the enemy were in full retreat towards Centerville. Ordering our brigade to follow or charge the division in front of us, this was glorious news to the boys, and cheer after cheer echoed and re-echoed along the ravines and over the hills, reaching the enemy and filling them with consternation, for they fled in confusion as we left our trenches to advance against them. We found a large breastwork with merlons for cannon thrown up directly across the road, flanked by a large line of chevaux de frise. In coming up to this position, we passed on the left of the battlefield of the 18th. The enemy had not buried all their dead. There were many bodies still above the ground. The stench was awful. I did not see the bodies as I did not wish to see them. We pushed hastily through the enemy's camp where they had left everything and pursued them toward Centerville, halting within a mile and a half. We were fired at but twice during the advance. After nightfall worn down with watching, fasting, and fatigue, we returned to our camp. We were thrown onto the next morning to cover the battlefield, to capture prisoners and stores, and reconnoiter the enemy. We soon found that their retreat had been a total rout. Nearly everything they had fell into our hands. We were posted at Centerville 2 days, retiring each night to our camp except the last, when instead of retiring, we advanced to this place, several miles nearer Washington than Fairfax Courthouse. During all the maneuvers incident to the 2 battles, our brigade held the post of honor. That we were not engaged by the enemy was not because we weren't ready to meet him. We were always in advance and never in reserve, as I have seen stated. 2 of our regiments, Colonel Cash and Kershaw, were detached and sent up to reinforce our main body during the Battle of Manassas. Though we did no fighting, still we were exposed to fire and were placed in position where it was supposed the enemy would attack. We cleared the way for the main army, did most of the work, was once 12 miles from our friends in the face of this powerful foe. Did we not then contribute our share to the glory of our Anjou? All well with GRT. Give my love to all. Write me a long letter about mother, father, and the children, the people generally. Love, Brother John.